Just a few minutes after 3 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon, the Agriculture and Natural Resources Subcommittee is now in session. If you would, Clerk, open the board for roll call.
Are you moving? May as well. Yeah. He said yeah.
Okay. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you for that. Register Representative Alexander as here. Okay. We got that taken care of, and Chairman Grills had to run to another committee. They just called him up, so I'm going to try to run this. I think I may need to log out and then in. Okay. No, it was just me because I moved chairs. So one of the little quirks about the new system that we're all learning from. So to get started, we'll have a prayer and a pledge. Brother Shaw, would you mind leading us in both of those, please? Thank you.
Father, we thank you today for the good graces that you've allowed us to enjoy on this blessed day. Thank you for sending us Jesus. Now we ask for guidance from the Holy Spirit that all of our decisions will be made according to your will. We ask for your blessings for those who've come to share with us today, and we also ask for your blessings upon our chair and all of the members of this committee. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let us salute and pledge our pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, while we're under personal orders, I will recognize Representative Shaw for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could get the presentation up on the board. I'm honored today to tell you that I've been representing District 80 for 24 years. It is made up of 3 different counties: Hardeman, Madison County, and of course Haywood County in West Tennessee. It is a rural district, and what you're looking at is what we call Blue Oval in Stanton, Haywood County. It was back in 2021 when Ford Motor Company made the announcement that they plan to locate in Stanton, Tennessee, and to bring us 5,760 jobs at $5.6 billion location. This drone video was taken back in 2024. It starts on the north portion of the Blue Oval City, and it is, of course, facing south toward I-40 going west in West Tennessee. The highway on the left side is Highway State Route 222. The building in front of the video is the Ford Tennessee Electric Vehicle Center, known as TEC for short. This facility is about 4 million square feet on the roof and over a mile long. This is where the Ford Motor Company will produce their electric vehicles coming up in 2027. The largest detected building following this particular building is what they call the TFAC. It is known as Mega. Mega is international. It is one of the top tier #1 suppliers in the automotive industry. And it is also along with what they call Robert Boss and Denso Corporation. Mega International is the largest automotive parts supplier in North America and the third largest in the world. This facility is scheduled to start making the batteries or producing batteries latter part of this year, which is 2025, and it is slated to start building Ford cars and trucks in 2027. As the camera angled and changes around, this drone was taken just a few days ago. And as the drone continues south, you will see 3 buildings being constructed between the TC building and Blue Oval SK. This project is one of the largest projects that the state of Tennessee has ever brought to this state. We're excited about it because it is in one of the probably distressed areas of all of West Tennessee, and that is Stanton, Tennessee, which is now one of the growingest areas in West Tennessee. The building that is coming up that you're going to be looking, or that you'll see in just a moment to the very left of your screen, is the building that is going to be producing the Ford cars. And it, of course, ranges to be over 6 football fields long. And it is going to be producing a vehicle somewhere at about 25 to 30 seconds, every 25 to 30 seconds coming up. The buildings that you're looking at right now are buildings that are going to be suppliers of Ford and SK. And we're very proud to have it in West Tennessee. We're excited about it. In fact, we're so excited, some days we don't know what to do but just to stand back and look. TVA, that is, has also built a plant which you will not be able to see in this particular video across the road on the other side just to supply this plant, which means if we have any kind of power outages, it will not affect homes. It will only affect the plant if it's on that site. And homeowners will still be able to enjoy services as usual. Again, thank you for letting me present this. This is just a small portion of what is going on in our district at this time. And according to even our governor, in our area, it is the growingest of all that's going on in the state of Tennessee at this time. And I'm proud to be one of the legislators. Thank you for letting me make this presentation.
Thank you, Representative Shaw, and thank you, Chairman Todd, for helping me out. I had to run across the hall and present a bill. I know we've got a lot on the calendar today. Is there any other personal orders that anyone would like to recognize? Seeing none, let's start right in with the item number 1, House Bill 1302. Representative Jones. You have a motion and a second. You are properly before the committee and recognized.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is a Department of Ag bill in order to comply with the Tennessee Meat and Poultry Act of 2023. The Department of Agriculture needs to set up a state meat inspection program. To create the meat inspection program, a state must enter into a cooperative agreement with the USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service. So this bill, just in order to comply with the program, the law needs to be changed to comply with the Federal Meat Inspection Act.
You've heard the description. Representative Jones, do we have any questions? Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Just briefly, so all you're doing is lining with the federal.
Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Representative Vital.
Thank you for bringing this bill, and this would be just for intrastate transactions, correct?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think so. I do have the department here if we want to ask them for clarification on that. It is. It is. Yes, sir. It is
Thank you.
correct.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we're ready to vote on sending House Bill 1302 to full committee. All those in favor, whenever the board opens, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Ms. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes and 0 nays.
Congratulations, you're on the full.
Thank you.
House
Thank you, committee and
HB
chair.
1302 on the full. Number 2 on the list is HB 124. Motion. We have a motion and a second. We'll roll to the heel of the calendar. Without objection, roll to the heel of the calendar. I know we have several people that have come in today to talk. We have people that come in a long way. At this point, we're going to roll the gavel to Chairman Todd. Chairman Todd is going to take over at this point, and we're going to deal with the addendum calendar. HB 804.
We're on item 19, House Bill 804 by Chairman Grills. Do I have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Chairman Grills, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment. My amendment is 4766.
That's what we have. Do I have a motion on the amendment? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. If you want to go ahead and put that on the bill?
That'd be great.
Okay. Without objection, we'll be voting on amendment drafting code 4766. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment goes on the bill. Okay. You're recognized to speak on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard about cell culture protein or lab-grown meat for several years now, and this has become a concern of many people from among all walks of life. We've seen bills that restrict and outright ban these types of products in many states, but I believe in the free market principles, so therefore this legislation does not ban, but it creates a permit system through the Department of Agriculture. Before this product can be sold in Tennessee, an annual permit of $1,000 has to be obtained, and the product cannot be labeled meat. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the Department of Agriculture will control who is selling these products in Tennessee.
Okay.
We also have someone here from the University of Tennessee Institution of Agriculture that would be an expert in this field, and we have set this meeting up several weeks ago, and he is here with us today, and I'd like to have him go out of session, have him speak.
Okay. We appreciate folks joining us to give testimony. So without objection, we'll go out of session. We're out of session. And if that gentleman would approach, Chairman Grills, would you give us his name since I don't have that written down here?
Mr. Neil Schreck from the University of Tennessee Institution of Agriculture. A lot smarter fellow than most of us up here, I'm sure.
All right, Mr. Schreck, you have 3 minutes to tell us what you know.
Do we have the slides or? That's all right. If we don't no worry. So again, this is an area that I've been working in, not in terms of the production, but in terms of presenting to beef producers, scientists, and also students. In 2011, this topic came up in our senior ethics course in animal science about this type of cell-cultured proteins. Started doing my homework at that time. I do have a background in cell culture and embryo culture. Most of you may remember me from the UT cloning project years ago when we made Millie and all the clones. And so this is an area that I'm interested in very much so, but it also is an area that I want to move forward. Do we have a way from over here? So since my time is limited, I'm gonna just jump to this slide right here. So this is the current technology. Recognize that this technology is changing a lot since 2011. So again, when this started, the first product came out in 2013 from a university in the UK. The goal for this on the beef side is 2035. However, there are two companies already in the United States that have been approved by the FDA and USDA for the production of cell-cultured chicken, and that is how it's labeled, is cell-cultured chicken. There's no beef, although there are applications right now, there is no beef on the thing. But if you look through here, you can see this is very much a bioprocess, and a lot of this is also covered by intellectual property. So we cannot go in there and see what is in this. We know it has growth factors. We know it has serum. We know it has other things in it, but we don't know everything that's in there. And so again, it's one of those that, to me, it needs to be regulated, it needs to be controlled. So, any questions?
Are there any questions for our guest? Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming to testify today. So we don't know what's in there because of the intellectual property. I get that. But we have information on what's in our beef, our chicken, our pork. And
Yes, sir.
so is there a next step to this? We make sure that we identify this as something other than chicken, right? Is there also a list of contents that would be required at some point in time before it'd be consumed?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Schrader, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. It has to be sent through FDA for approval, and at that time, just like any food ingredient, we have to know what's in each part of it. And so at that time period, we'll know. We know it's basically right now what we call embryo media or culture media to get it growth. They call it a broth. And so that's what it's termed as a broth. Now, another thing, the newest thing, is recognize how far this has come. When it first came, it was basically it's the size of a bag phone. A lot of you probably had bag phones that were your cell phone back in the day, and now it's the size of our cell phones. And that's the technology, because now they're using what they call scaffolding, which allows us to put the muscle fibers and the adipose, or marbling, like we like to see in a good steak, be able to stack it. And then you also see on that slide the 3D, what they call 3D bioprinting. So again, that's where the technology's going. I tell students in class, they are going to have the opportunity to eat this in the future. It's going to be available, and to me, it needs to be their choice.
Okay, yeah, Representative Fritz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one follow-up. So if a company was putting together this lab-grown chicken and decided to make it a 5% portion of a chicken nugget or a chicken strip or whatever, would it be labeled? Should it be labeled in that case as well, that there's any of it in the product the consumer's about to eat?
Mr. Schreck?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for our guest? Representative Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know you and I have talked about this before, but would you explain the process of maybe when you put that cell cultured, that cell in that Petri dish and you start growing it, that process, and then antibiotics are added? I mean, there's talk about that. And how do you get the antibiotics out of that if there's no liver, kidneys?
Right
You're
now,
recognized.
there's no way of getting antibiotics. This is a long-term culture. This is not like my embryo cultures are 7 days. We're in and out. These are months. Okay, so this is a long-time culture, because basically you're going to take either a muscle cell or you're going to take a stem cell, and you're going to multiply it 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. It's got to grow, and then you've got to convert that cell, especially if it's an embryo cell, into a muscle fiber. So you have to put in that broth the signals to say, I'm here. With that long-term culture, you also have to include some sort of antibiotics. Now, the companies will tell you that they're ultra clean, ultra pure. But even in our own embryo labs, which are also ultra pure, we still get contamination. And so there will have to be some sort of antibiotic. So how are they going to withdraw it? We've asked that question. How are you going to remove it? There's no liver, there's no kidney. How are you going to clean this antibiotic? We've yet to get an answer. The original one was they would rinse it. But if it's a steak, how are you going to rinse it out of the middle of a steak? So,
Chairman Grills?
No further questions.
Okay. If no other questions for our guest, we thank you for being here with us. Any other guests on our list? Okay. Without objection, we'll go back into session. We're back in session, and Chairman Grills, you're recognized.
No further questions and no further comments.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments for the sponsor? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, clerk, please open the vote. Please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Bill moves on to full committee. Next, we will be on item number 16 on our calendar, and is House Bill 809 by Chairman Grills. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
We have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second. Chairman Grills, you're recognized on House Bill 809.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. As a full-time row crop farmer from West Tennessee, I know what it is to battle the markets, weather, weeds, and bad luck. And where I live, we are very dependent on the most up-to-date technologies for our weed, grass, and pest control. New technologies are very important to sustainability of the Tennessee farmer. This legislation provides protection to companies that apply and receive a label through EPA's Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, commonly known as FIFRA. Once the EPA grants a label to the company that is applied, they are required to place this label on the product approved. They cannot change, add, or delete portions of the granted label without being in violation of federal law. What has happened in the past is that companies have been sued for not placing a warning on their label that they, by law, cannot add. This bill prevents that. I'm fearful that these types of lawsuits will eventually place such a burden on new chemistries that the fear of this unwanted litigation will prevent investment from chemical companies. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be willing to take questions, and I know we have people here that are willing to that want to testify and make different statements about this.
Okay. Thank you for that. Representative Jones? Okay. All right. We will certainly, any objection to going out of session here from Winston? Okay. Seeing none, we will go out of session. We are now out of session, and I'll call up Tandy King, Bernadette Pager, and Danny Ellis. If y'all would approach, and then you can toss a coin of which one goes first. I would imagine it'll be ladies first here today. All right, Miss, if you would, we're going to give you 3 minutes to tell us what you have, and we'll start that time as soon as you give us your name and who you're with, and start talking. You're recognized, Ms. Pager.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Bernadette Pager, and I'm just here representing myself. So everyone knows that this bill is actually about cancer lawsuits filed against Monsanto Bayer and their product Roundup. But the bill language is not about Bayer or Roundup. It's about all pesticides registered in Tennessee. The list on the Department of Ag website has 15,441 registered pesticides. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, bactericides. It's a massive product list. If you pass this bill, you remove accountability for harms caused by more than 15,000 products that were either not known when the label was registered or when it was updated, harms that the company hid from the EPA. It's very important to know that the federal law FIFRA, that this pertains to, says in Section 3FD, registration, not a defense. In no event shall registration of an article be construed as a defense for the commission of any offense under this act. Now, why would FIFRA include this language? Well, it's because they understand 3 things. They understand that labels only include what was known at the time the label was drafted or updated. And Chairman Grill's labels are updated as necessary. Safety studies by manufacturers are of necessity limited in duration and scope, and the full impact of a product on human, animal, and environmental health cannot be known until the product is used by a significant number of people for a significant length of time. With all products on the market, we protect consumers by ensuring that manufacturers are accountable for the harm their products cause, even if they were unknown at the time the product was labeled. This ensures product safety issues that emerge are properly addressed, such as through product recall, product reformulation, and if unfixable, the label is updated with the new warning. Because manufacturers who stand to profit from the sale of the products do all their own safety testing, and they submit their draft of labels to EPA or their revised draft of labels to EPA, it's absolutely false to say EPA would not let them put something on the label. They write their own labels, they write their own update, they submit them. If Monsanto Bayer wanted cancer on Roundup, they could add that. The EPA knows that there is opportunity to hide known risks, which can only be uncovered by a civil action that allows for the discovery process. I'm asking you all to please have the AG review this bill, do a deep analysis. Please find out what products it covers and what sort of civil liability actions that it protects against. I beg you all to fully understand what this bill actually does in full before you pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pager. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Pager? Okay, seeing none, we'll go in alphabetical order. How about Mr. Ellis next? You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Danny Ellis. I am the president of the Tennessee Trial Lawyers. I will try to do something that normal attorneys don't do. I will be succinct and to the point. Under both state and federal pesticide laws, companies must, number one, register their product, number two, label it, and number three, avoid misbranding, meaning that the label cannot be false, misleading, or missing necessary warnings. Registration and labeling under FIFRA is not a defense. However, misbranding is the only ongoing requirement that requires companies to update labels as new evidence emerges. This bill will eliminate accountability for misbranding. The pesticide industry's goal is to get complete immunity once a pesticide label is approved by the EPA. This same model bill is popping up all over the United States and even in Congress. It has been rejected in Idaho, Iowa, and Missouri last year, and in this year has been rejected in Wyoming, Montana, and Mississippi. Nevertheless, this is a massively coordinated push to eliminate accountability for pesticide manufacturers, even when they cover up risks from the EPA. Turning to the specific language of this bill, the key immunity language is in subsection A, where it says, and I quote, "It is not liable in a civil action related to the labeling of the pesticide," end quotes. That blocks any claims on failure to warn, fraud, negligence, or defective design, because all of those theories are tied directly to the label, whether it discloses or doesn't disclose the harms. Even if a company withholds dangers from the EPA, this bill will ensure farmers in Tennessee cannot hold them accountable. This has already happened. For instance, Kim China, a company owned by Communist China, is alleged to have withheld critical data from the EPA that paraquat, one of the pesticides listed, when it's accumulated in the brain, causes Parkinson's. To escape accountability under this bill, Kim China would simply need to assert that their paraquat label was sufficient. Fraud claims are blocked. Negligence claims blocked. Design defects blocked. If they are not liable in civil action related to the label, you cannot simply hold them accountable in Tennessee. Lastly, there's a workaround potentially in subsection B. However, subsection B is too ambiguous. It states that the person would still be liable if they are in violation of state and federal law. The question is, based on how the law is written, who determines that violation? Is it the EPA? We all know how long the regulatory process takes. It's not Tennessee. Is it federal courts? It's left unopened. And so until this loophole is closed up, there will be a free pass for pesticide manufacturers.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. I appreciate your being here. Anyone have any questions directly for Mr. Ellis at this time? Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. Can you state the states again that have rejected this legislation? Can you name those one more time?
Mr. Ellis, we'll get your microphone turned back on. There you go.
Okay. Thank you. It is Mississippi, Wyoming, Montana this year. Last year was Idaho, Iowa, and Missouri, the home of Monsanto.
Representative Jones.
Thank you. I mean, these are states very similar to us politically, and obviously they put the health of their constituents above this civil immunity. Are there any other examples where you would see companies like this getting immunity? Is there anything in our law right now where they have, any other similar company would have immunity from litigation if they harm or poison or contribute to the negative adverse health impacts of people in our state?
Mr. Ellis.
Representative, that's a great question. Article 1, Section 6 of the Tennessee Constitution guarantees every Tennessean the right to a jury trial inviolate, which means it should not be infringed upon. As it stands now, there are no laws in the state of Tennessee that allow immunity for things like this.
Representative Jones.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for our guest? Representative Fritz, do you have a question for our guest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's going to seem like a devil's advocate question, so be patient with me. I promise it's not meant to be harsh. As I listen, I read through this, I guess just simply ask the question, does this bill simply reduce frivolous lawsuits? Let me finish that thought before you answer, because people's health is never a frivolous thing, right? But we are a very litigious culture, unfortunately. I think we'd all agree with that. So is there an element, in your opinion, that this simply reduces some of that, the frivolous lawsuit, or do you think this really harms the health of people?
Mr. Ellis.
Thank you. No, sir. The idea of a frivolous lawsuit has very many safeguards in place. We have elected judges in each and every one of our counties. These judges sit and listen to the law. Their very first line of defense against a frivolous lawsuit is a motion to dismiss, in which the judge looks at the complaint and says, there's not enough here to even go forward. If a defendant does not survive the motion to dismiss and has to go forward, then discovery takes place. Then there's another process called a motion for summary judgment. At the motion for summary judgment stage, both sides say these are all the facts, the genuine issues of material facts that are not in question. And based on that, one of which would be, is it more likely than not, 50% and greater, that this product caused the harm that is alleged? If they cannot show, based on the undisputed facts, the judge has no choice but to kick that out. After that, then there's a jury trial. 12 individuals from our communities who speak as the guardians of our communities, who hear the evidence, weigh the evidence, and exercise their constitutional duty to make a decision whether more likely than not, based on all the evidence, if that person has a claim or not. Those claims are not frivolous once they survive that process. And even then, we have additional safeguards because we have appellate courts and we have the Tennessee Supreme Court who sits as the ultimate final arbiter on these cases. Have I answered your question?
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Thank you. Great answer. I appreciate that. And just one follow-up to that. So I have concerns about lots of these things, too. We've all heard from lots of people on both sides of this issue. But when I read the bill, in the simplicity of it, and fortunately I have an attorney to ask this question, but it seems to relate simply to the labeling. And I don't see anything, non-attorney, but I don't see anything that would prevent me from bringing suit if I could prove harm against that chemical or that chemical manufacturer and go through the process you just described, aside from just the labeling aspect of it. So can you help me better understand that?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor. Excuse me. I should say Your Honor. Chairman Todd, I'm sorry. What we're talking about is a strict liability cause of action. Strict liability is where a manufacturer puts out a product that is either defective or unreasonably dangerous. To do that, there are two types of ways that you can make that proof. One is that they knew about a danger and they failed to warn the public. I think the best example is cigarettes. right? There is a warning label on each and every cigarette that allows the consumer to choose whether they want to smoke that or not. The other type of an example would be the Pinto. The Pinto was an unreasonably dangerous vehicle because of where the gas tank was placed, and that was how you would look at it. However, under Tennessee law, what we have to look at is, and in this instance, the pesticides. These are chemicals that by definition are unreasonably dangerous because they are stripping and killing weeds and things like that, and it's a chemical. When you use this product, you have to use a mask in order not to ingest it. What we're looking at here is you cannot show that it's unreasonably dangerous in a product's liability aspect unless you can go to the warning. And even then, the warning label ties both the strict liability claim when you're trying to prove it's unreasonably dangerous to the other failure to warn claims. They're all linked together. So to answer your question, no, it's going to stop a majority of claims.
Representative Fritz? Okay, thank you. Representative Shaw?
Thank you for being here, sir. Just one question. Have you tried any of these cases in Tennessee or any other state?
Mr. Ellis?
Representative Shaw, it's good to see you again. You probably don't remember me. I used to serve on the city council in Jackson, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah.
I personally have not, sir. I've not. This is not my area of expertise. I'm the president of the Tennessee Trial Lawyers. However, I have several friends who handle this type of, and who are way smarter than me, who handle this type of case. There are Tennessee farmers who have been hurt. They have brought their claims in a different jurisdiction. They are filing suit, I believe, in Missouri. As we sit here today, I know of no Tennessee claim that has been filed in Tennessee. But that is not to say that there are not Tennessee farmers who don't have cancer from these pesticides.
Representative Shaw?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing no further questions for our guests, we thank you, and we'll call on Mr. Tandy King now. Sir, if you tell us who you are and who you're with.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to voice my opinion. My name is Tandy King. I am a lifelong and full-time farmer in the 28th District of Tennessee, which is Murray County. I'm a proud eighth-generation Tennessean. I'm addressing your committee over my concern with Bill HB 0809, which is before you. The passing of this bill would give immunity to large foreign-owned chemical companies of any legal civil action in connection with any chemicals they produce and sell as long as it has been registered with the EPA and the State Ag Commission. These giant-owned foreign chemical companies and misguided farm organizations are using the face of the farmer, saying it would be beneficial to the farmer. In fact, if this bill is passed, it would put all the burden of any damages caused by these chemicals on the back of the person applicating and using it, the farmer. Please be aware of these organizations like the Modern Ag Alliance. They are no more than a front for Bayer Chemical Company. I speak with firsthand knowledge how an EPA-registered chemical can have a devastating effect on an individual. In 2017, the first year of registered chemicals, Extendamax and Ingenia were allowed to be used on the chemical company's genetically modified patented seed system. I started noticing problems with my tobacco crop. After investigations by weed and chemical specialists and tobacco specialists, the TDA lab found I had been hit with a dicamba drift, the main ingredient in Extendamax and Ingenia. I was not by myself. Thousands of farmers across the nation had damage to hundreds of thousands of acres of crops amounting to millions of dollars worth of damage. Due to the volatility of this chemical, it has the ability to travel miles in the form of gas, making it virtually impossible to pinpoint the origin. From 2017 to present, I have had a dicamba drift damage on my farm every year. I have spent the last 7 years in litigation against Bayer and BASF trying to recover the damages that have been caused me. Dicamba has been banned twice in federal court, and the EPA was reprimanded for not using proper procedure in the registration process. And still the chemical companies are in the process of trying to have this dangerous chemical registered again. The chemical companies have targeted 11 states across the nation to try to pass similar bills. Tennessee is one of them. I plead with you for the sake of our children and grandchildren and the rest of the people of our fine state to kill this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Appreciate you being here. Any questions for Representative Jones? You're recognized.
Thank you so much for being here. I received over 50 correspondence from folks in the state. Every single one of those messages was against this bill. These are farmers. These are people who live in the community. I have not gotten one email supporting this bill. And so I asked a few farmers who emailed. I said, would you come down? They said, well, we're busy farming, so we can't come, but we hope that the folks on this committee will put the lives of our farmers above these multinational corporations that don't even live in this state. And so I just want to thank you for being down here. Do you know of other farmers in your community in Murray or across the state who have had similar instances with these chemicals or been impacted or in similar litigation?
Mr. King?
Excuse me.
You're recognized.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've had, this past year, I had the Tennessee State Inspector out to look at my farm. He decided that from the appearance, it was dicamba damage. And I asked him, well, before you leave, would you mind looking at my neighbor's soybeans? I said, they don't look right. And he a little bit hesitant, but he said, sure, I'll look at them. He looked at them. He says, did you say these were enlist beans? There's an enlist bean and a dicamba-resistant bean. The enlist beans will be damaged by dicamba. So he looked at the beans and he said, are you sure are these enlist beans? I said, sure. He said, it was about a 40 or 50 acre field just burned up. He said, this is dicamba damage, classic dicamba damage. And also a young farmer sent me a picture of his tobacco crop. And he says, is this dicamba? I said, yes, I think it is. And he checked it out with more expert people, and yes, it was dicamba damage. And he probably lived 20 miles from me. What the problem is these chemicals, especially, well, I speak on dicamba because I've had an experience with it, but it could be any chemical, has the ability to drift over, and you don't get to decide whether it's not like tobacco, you don't get to decide whether you're going to smoke or not. It's going to drift over on your family's yard, and it's going to damage the people. And I've never seen a person yet that was resistant to chemicals. Never.
Representative Jones?
Thank you. And just my second question, my final question. We've had some corporate lobbyists up here trying to portray this as this bill is about protecting farmers, and this bill is for farmers. What would you respond to them saying that?
Mr. King?
Well, to clean up the language a little bit, no, it's not for the farmer. These bills are being pushed through by these foreign-owned chemical companies, and they're isolating one chemical, and that's the Roundup or glyphosate, and it's not taking into consideration this lady said, how many other chemicals are there out there? And this dicamba, they've already banned it twice in federal court, and they go back to the EPA, and the EPA will re-register it. And if I read the summary of the bill correctly, that if a chemical is registered with the EPA and is okayed by the State Ag Commission, then the chemical companies have no responsibility.
Representative Jones?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just out of curiosity, I'm a full-time farmer. How would you suggest that I keep my fields clean? If we did away with all the products that you obviously want to do away with, what would you suggest I do to keep my fields clean so I can be a functional, profitable farmer?
Mr. King?
Well, absolutely, it's chemicals. But what this bill is doing is stripping the farmers of any recourse or the people of any recourse to recoup the damages that's been done by these chemicals. I'm a farmer, and I'm not that anti-chemical as long as the chemical is safe, but it's been proven by dicamba that the EPA is irresponsible of the way they register chemicals. And if they are irresponsible, you might be spraying a chemical on your field that you think is doing good to your crop. You might also be spraying a chemical on your field that can cause damage to your family.
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you say, though, that the process worked? Because like you just said, in 2017, XtendiMax and Ingenia was labeled, and now it's no longer labeled. Would you not say that the process worked because it was labeled, and then they saw something that may need to change? The label is no longer there?
Has it really worked? Excuse me.
You're recognized, sir.
I'm sorry. Has it really worked? I think after the first year, I think if you listen to what I said, and this is facts, this is not me dreaming up stuff. It had damaged hundreds of thousands of acres of crops and did millions of dollars worth of damage. How many times do you want a chemical to do this? It was registered at the time. It was registered.
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will be my final statement. I used the chemicals. I used XtendiMax. I used Ingenia. We had a neighbor that called one day and said, hey, you've sprayed and messed, and you've gotten my beans. And he was talking about the damages that were done. So we went and looked at them. What damage are you talking about? And when did we spray this? Last week when you sprayed. Okay, thank you. Checked our records. We hadn't sprayed them. But yet he was convinced that we were the ones who may have damaged his beans. He had no damage, but he was looking for somebody to bail him out. He was looking for a payoff. And I'm not so sure that that's not happening in some of your instances that you've brought up, because I can give you 2 or 3 different times where that's happened in my community. So anyhow, that's just, and I'm a farmer. We've got to work together. We've got to have these chemicals.
Representative Shaw?
Can I answer that, please?
I'm going to go to Representative Shaw, and then if you want to respond to that, you're welcome to. Representative Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, and thank you for your testimony. I just wanted to ask you, you talked about how they destroyed the neighbor's crop. There is a direction as to how you use these chemicals. Were the direction followed, or did you use them? Did you put more chemicals in water? I know that because I've used Roundup quite a bit myself, and I know it's a mixture, and I just wondered, was the mixture proper? Did you just, sometimes I know we can get a little heavy-handed.
Well,
Mr. King?
To begin with, I wasn't the one spraying the dicamba, but if you talk to all the weed and chemical specialists in this state and in the nation, they will tell you there was no way a farmer could follow every one of the instructions on that label. There's no way, because you have no control over the weather. Heat inversion is one of them. That's one of the things that causes these chemicals to volatilize and spread. You don't have any control over that. I don't care how careful you are. And you made the statement about people were looking for damage. No, are the people at Reelfoot Lake, were they looking for somebody to pay for their damages? Because it's my understanding it got hit pretty doggone hard. As a matter of fact, they were talking about putting a buffer zone around Reelfoot Lake. A natural thing. And I don't have anything with you using chemical, but I do have a problem with me being affected by those chemicals. Keep them on your field, and that's impossible to do with all these chemicals. And not only this, they're just, EPA has really been too lax about registering these chemicals.
Representative Shaw?
Well, certainly, sir, I'm not disputing your statements at all. I think what I was getting to is I've used Roundup, and I've used it around my neighbor's yard, but I never had that problem unless I used it too strong. And if I use it too strong, yeah, it'll burn up something, but as long as the mixture, so I just wondered if whoever sprayed it were using it properly or just was a little loose-handed with what they were doing. That's all I was getting at.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And I hear a lot of talk about Roundup and glyphosate. This lady right here told it all. There's more than one chemical out there. If y'all are really interested in using glyphosate, you should send a bill specifically isolating this chemical. We need this chemical. Okay. And I feel to this day, if this bill is passed, farmers are going to they're opening a Pandora box with lawsuits individually. It won't be going to a chemical company. Unfortunately, it might be coming to you directly, and I don't want to see anybody go through what I've been through the last 7 years. Nobody. It's uncalled for.
Well, thank you, Mr. King, and we appreciate each of you coming and traveling here today and to be with us and tell us what you know. We appreciate that. We have some others on our list. We have Elizabeth Thompson, Stephen Maupin, and Kevin Hensley. If y'all would approach. And we'll probably take the same order. We'll go with ladies first.
I'm going to defer and let.
Well, okay, all right. Well, that will be fine as well. We will go to Mr. Hensley. Just state who you are and who you're with. You have
Yes, sir.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Kevin Hensley, Tennessee Farm Bureau Federation Director of Public Policy. Tennessee farmers grow over 3 million acres of row crops, including soybeans, corn, cotton, and wheat. A key feature of Tennessee row crop production is no-till practices, which depending on the crop is over 80% of our production in the state. Tennessee farmers are leaders in these practices, considering 21% of all cultivated cropland in the United States is no-till. No-till is the practice of using proper equipment to plant seeds in which the soil is not tilled. As a result, the soil is left undisturbed in between the harvest of one crop and the planting of another. Initially utilized by farmers for the purpose of preventing soil erosion, no-till aids in farm profitability by decreasing fuel consumption, lessens labor requirements, sequesters carbon, and increasing water holding capacity in soil organic matter without negatively impacting production yields. Farmers cannot utilize no-till without crop protection products, which are commonly referred to as pesticides. These products are used in all types of agriculture production, from conventional to organic. These products are critical for ensuring a safe, abundant, and affordable supply of food, feed, fuel, and fiber. Without access to safe, well-regulated pesticide tools, farmers would be vulnerable from devastating insects, fungal diseases, and weed pests that can completely destroy a crop. Economy-wide, this would impact the cost and availability of food for American consumers. Further, pesticides are vital for protecting public health from diseases carried by animal pests like bedbugs, rodents, mosquitoes, which carry things like West Nile virus and dengue fever. Leveraging the safe use of pesticides is also critical to supporting soil health conservation practices like no-till, controlling weeds that could damage critical infrastructure, and controlling vegetation that contributes to wildfire fuel loads. Without access to and safe use of pesticides, farmers will become less competitive in the marketplace. Less U.S. production means Americans will increasingly rely on other countries for our food, leading to higher prices, reduced food security, and compromised national security. A nation that chooses not to feed itself is not secure. In an already fragile agriculture economy, we ask you to support policies which help farmers and ensure access to key crop protection products. The suppliers of these products to Tennessee farmers are at a crossroads. Do they continue to provide the tools farmers need, or do they continue to be faced with lawsuits that they cannot win? Ultimately, if this type of legislation is not successful, Tennessee farmers will lose access to these products. In supporting this legislation, you are supporting Tennessee farmer profitability. This bill is very narrowly tailored.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley. Time is up. We have 2 hands up to ask questions. I'll go to Representative Fritz first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming to testify. And I'd like to hear the rest of your thoughts, Kevin, as you were speaking. You lost me on the carbon sequestration for just a minute, because that's I think that gets into something else. So I'll take that comment out. But most of the farmers, as you know, in my district are very much in favor of this bill. It's probably been 4 or 5 to 1 in the correspondence that we've gotten in favor of this, because they consider these chemicals to be a tool. So to finish your thoughts, and my question for you would be to something we just heard, should we be thinking about in the future, and this gets a little bit outside what we're talking about today, but it's been mentioned, should we be considering banning those foreign chemicals from adversarial nations from getting into our fields?
Mr. Hensley.
That's a complex question. A big thing about about what we're trying to do today is make sure that we have domestic supply. A huge issue that we face is glyphosate has been talked about previously. The lawsuits around that are putting the only American supplier at risk. There's one company, that company is Bayer, that makes glyphosate in the United States. They mine it in Idaho, they process it in the United States, and they sell it in the United States. They're a German company, but it's all the glyphosate productions in the United States. They're the company that holds the registration for these products. And it is, if these suits that have been successful that you've seen on TV and social media are dependent upon, not did somebody actually get sick from the product, but they're dependent upon, did the company fail to warn? They have no control over that label that we already talked about. The EPA is the one that controls that label. So all the concerns that we've heard today about health and safety, about drift, all those things, passing the liability on to farmers, that this bill doesn't do that. The health and safety lawsuits can continue, drift claims can continue, and the liability is not passed on to the farmers. The federal law controls what's on the label. They don't have control over that. So they're going to court and losing claims that they can't defend themselves on. And so we have to have American production. We want to have American production.
Representative Prince.
Just one follow-up. Thank you for that answer. Just one follow-up on the foreign. Is that something we, as an agriculture nation, an agriculture state, should we be looking somewhere at limiting access to our crops, our fields, and our herds from the foreign chemicals?
Mr. Hensley.
So even if a chemical is manufactured by a foreign company, they still have to meet the same health and safety requirements to sell those products in the United States. Like many things, chemical companies have offshore production. I mean, like name an entity that doesn't have offshore production. To sell in the United States, you still have to meet the same health, all the requirements that any other, like a domestic production would have to have. But it is the thing you have to consider, I think, for your question is we don't want to be totally reliant upon China to produce these types of products. And that's our concern, is that we want to maintain American supply of these products.
Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you. First of all, I would challenge any of my colleagues on this committee to bring us a farmer before this committee who supports this bill. We say we have emails, let's bring them here. Because every farmer who I've spoken to, I was just at a beef Angus farm this weekend in Rutherford County. I've talked to farmers. We got emails from a farmer in Washington County. We got emails from a farmer in, where's this other one? I mean, this one is Washington. This one is in Murray County. I mean, farmers from all across the state are opposing this bill because, let's read the bill, because I think we're kind of getting off topic.
Representative Jones, do you have a question for our guest?
I want to ask him to respond to this.
Okay.
So, because we're saying that this bill is about trying to protect us from banning these chemicals. This bill, let's read the description of it now. Tennessee Code Title 43, Chapter 8, as introduced, specifies that a manufacturer or seller of a pesticide registered with the Commissioner of Agriculture and with the Environmental Protection Agency under the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Roticide Act is not liable in a civil action related to the labeling of the pesticide if the pesticide bore a label approved by the EPA under FIFRA at the time of sale. This bill is about saying that if a farmer gets sick, if they get any type of illness, Parkinson's, cancer, they will not be able to have civil liability. They will not be able to sue that foreign company, because a lot of these are foreign companies from China, from Beijing to Berlin. These are not American companies. And now we're saying our farmers cannot sue them if they get sick. And I'm trying to understand, how does this serve the interests of Tennessee farmers? Based off of the description, because that's what this bill is about. And we've went all around town around this bill, but the bill is about stopping civil liability. So how will stopping farmers from being able to sue these multinational foreign corporations help our farmers in Tennessee?
So the types of lawsuits you just described, this bill does not stop.
Representative Jones.
My friend, I just read the bill. That's not what I described. That's what it says in this bill.
Yeah, no, the health and safety lawsuits that you described are not claims on the label. Those are health and safety. They're different. You're talking about a different type of tort. They're different claims that you can bring. You can still bring those claims to court. But the bill is specific to claims around the label.
Representative Jones.
Mississippi, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Iowa, Missouri. All these states stopped this bill from being passed. Why do you think we should experiment on Tennesseans and pass it here if all these other states, we would be the first state to introduce, this would be our first time saying you cannot sue You cannot have a civil liability claim. Why should this be the first time? And why should we be one of the first states to do this if all of our similar states said we don't want this, we want to protect our farmers? Why should we lead in this way?
Mr. Hensley?
Thank you, Chairman. So a couple things to address there. The bill is different than the legislation in other states. I've reviewed those legislation. The legislation in other states is typically more broad. When we talked about bringing this to Tennessee, we wanted to make sure we were very narrowly tailored to make sure that the health and safety concerns that you talked about, that the drift claims that have been talked about, those lawsuits can still be brought. And another important thing is the no-till component that I've already talked about. We cannot farm no-till without herbicides. And the types of lawsuits that we're seeing in other states are going to lead to companies stop providing those products. They're going to make a business decision at some point. Is it worth it to us to continue to lose money on a product in court, or are we just going to stop selling that product? And that would put farmers like Chairman Grills out of business. We had our 2 days on the Hill up here the past couple of days. We had almost 300 farmers that were up here the past couple of days that support this legislation.
Representative Jones?
89% of Americans and 84% of farmers oppose immunity for chemical companies, revealing near universal demand for accountability when products are misbranded. We have so much counter information from this that we've received from folks who are working with farmers in our state, we had a farmer come testify what this will do. And so I have not heard of anybody coming saying that we want this. So I literally did a scan of my email. I said, print me every email having to do with this bill. That's what all this paper is. My colleagues here can see I have a stack of paper here. And I went through each email one by one, underlying it, and everyone is against this. And I don't think it's right for us to put the risk of Tennesseans farmers at risk when every other state said we don't want this in our state. I just think it's a bad precedent, and I think there's a reason why they rejected it in other states, because they knew that this would cause harm and it would remove liability. It reminds me of this movie I was watching where the lady went to go meet with these lawyers who poisoned her community, Aaron Brockovich, and they came to meet with her, and she had that bottle, and they poured their water out. And she said, I want you to know that this is the water that came from my community. They spit that water out so quickly because they knew that what they want for others, they didn't want for themselves. And I want you to know that I changed all the water bottles and included it with some of these pesticides from these companies that you have right here.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like to try to keep things as simple as I can when making decisions. I represent a lot of farmers. I have not had any complaints from farmers at all. Most of my complaints have come from people who maybe did or did not understand the legislation. But here's what I want to ask. If we were not to pass this, what position does it put the farmers in?
Mr. Hensley?
So the concern that we have as an organization that represents farmers is that at some point we're going to lose access to these products. And the practices that we have that benefit the environment, that benefit the farm, that benefit soil health, we would lose all of that. If we have to go back to tilling all the soil, our soil is going to be in the Gulf. And that's just not an acceptable place for us to be for the environment, for the profitability of the farm. That's a real legitimate concern that we have in the long run for these. It's not just glyphosate is the thing that's the thing right now, but these types of claims are going to lead to lack of availability for these products.
Representative Shaw.
So have we had in the past, over the past 20 years, have we had any claims of anyone getting sick from the products that farmers grow? And as you've explained, most of them grow from no-till. Most of them do now. And I used to didn't understand that because when I came along, we were farming. We had to till the dirt. But now farmers actually go out, look like and plant in a field of weeds. So it is different. But have you had any, do you all know of any situations where anyone got sick from the products, the chemicals, I'll say, not the product, the chemicals that the farmers use to grow their crops?
I'm personally not familiar with them, but if that was to happen, if that awful thing was to happen, that somebody would get sick from a product like this, those claims can still be brought in Tennessee if this legislation passes.
Representative Shaw?
So you're saying if that were to happen, I could still sue a company if I had proof that I got sick from any chemical that food was grown from, I could sue.
Yes, sir.
If this bill passed, can I sue?
Yes, sir. For health and safety claims.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Hensley. You had mentioned, I think a little bit earlier, that the bills in these other states, Mississippi, Idaho, et cetera, were not the same. Are you aware of a state that has passed a bill that is similar to this bill in front of us?
Mr. Hensley?
There may have been, she may be able to answer that better than I can, but I will say from my perspective, we want to lead as a state. That is a thing that Tennessee is known for leading for business, leading for farmers. And I think that's something we're proud about, that we're on the forefront of trying to do good things for our industries.
Representative Martin?
Well, I mean, you made the statement that if we don't pass this bill, the sky's going to fall and that economically it's going to hurt us. So my question is, has it hurt other states that have passed similar bills? And what I'm hearing you say is that you're not aware of other states, that we would be the first one to pass something like this. And yet I heard you make the claim that we would lose business if we pass this. I'm just trying to get the point of reference.
I appreciate that. So it's a great question. These bills have only been started within the past 2 years. So this is not unusual to get to a point where there's a change in policy that takes time for states to pass. And so we're at that position that multiple states are discussing this topic. The long-term ramification of not passing this type of legislation or Congress not taking care of this legislation is the concern that we talked about.
Representative Martin? I'm good. Okay. Seeing no other questions, who would like to speak next? Ms. Thompson? Okay. You're recognized.
Thank you. As was mentioned, my name is Elizabeth Burns-Thompson. I serve as the Executive Director for the Modern Ag Alliance. Our alliance is made up of a lot of cross-interested folks in this space. So both from the manufacturers, we have well over 100 different, or nearly 100 different commodity associations, state farm bureaus, really farmer-facing grassroots organizations, entities that have come together that recognize that there's truly a threat to the availability of these tools moving forward. As has been talked about, we are working on legislation in a lot of different states and happy to field some questions along what those may look like from state to state. Just to hit on a few of those things, there was a summary of where there have been maybe some bills that have not met deadlines and processes so far this session. What unfortunately was failed to be mentioned is some of those that have moved forward. So, for example, the state of North Dakota, which moved this 88-0 through the House of Representatives. The state of Georgia that moved this through on the floor of the Senate in a very bipartisan fashion. I believe 42-12 was the vote there. It has also moved through the floor on the House side in Missouri, and we continue to work through. Different states have different legislative timelines and obviously processes, but a lot of these, your counterparts in many of these states are having similar conversations as we speak on this. As was mentioned, there was a lot of feedback taken from the state conversations in those 3 jurisdictions that were mentioned before of last year, and that legislation was reworked so that it is more pinpointed and focused, very much like what you're seeing here today. What I want to make sure I highlight as part of my limited time here today is kind of teeing up the problem as well as some of I think some misinformation that we've seen thus far. This bill absolutely is a process conversation. Glyphosate is not mentioned in this bill. Bayer is not mentioned in this bill. There is no one chemistry, there's no one company mentioned in this because this is talking about process. At the end of the day, the responsibilities for manufacturers exist the same way today as they will the day that this bill is signed into law. A manufacturer continues to have the responsibility to design safe and effective products. They still have a responsibility to manufacture safe and effective products, and they continue to have a responsibility to warn and label appropriately. All of those still exist under the tenets of this legislation. All that this does today is to explain how a manufacturer achieves that responsibility in that warning or that labeling. very clearly laid out as getting a federally regulated label issued. One of the things I do want to make sure, I know I'm going to be tight on time, there was when we're talking about the process of this, right, we're talking about decades that go into the research, and one thing I specifically wanted to point out, a misconception about what goes into the science behind this, behind these products. And it is definitely not manufacturer driven. In fact, I'll read you a quote from the EPA's website specifically on their review of glyphosate, and that EPA's database includes studies submitted to support registrations of glyphosate and studies EPA independently identified in open literature.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. And Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. Can you say the name of your organization again?
You're recognized. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Modern Ag Alliance.
Representative Jones.
Thank you. Is it true that Modern Ag Alliance was founded and funded by Bayer, who also owns Monsanto? Is that who founded your organization? True or false?
Correct. They were a founding entity of this amongst the many other partners.
Representative Jones.
Thank you so much. So this is an industry front group who was sent here to tell us that this bill is in the interest of our farmers, but they're the companies who are trying to get immunity from litigation. It is this company, Monsanto and Bayer, who created this organization. And so I hope that we heed that when we listen to the credibility of this testimony, that this is a company that has been brought to us, bought and paid for by Monsanto and Bayer, and that's who presents this testimony today. So thank you so much.
Ms. Thompson.
Just the liberty to further elaborate, yes, Bayer is one of our partners. Tennessee Soybean, Tennessee Farm Bureau are also listed partners as part of this effort. Their logos are the exact same size on our website. So I'm just as accountable to our farmer entities and organizations.
Thank you for being here today. We have next on our list a Mr., I think it's Maupin, is that right? First time you've been here with us. We're glad you're with us, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
3 minutes, all right. So, I left my computer somewhere else, so I don't have my prepared notes, but I'll try to go by memory. First of all, let me say that the concept of pesticides is nothing new to humanity. Over in 4500 BC, not long after humans started domesticated agriculture, they were developing pesticides. Why? Because pests have always been of all types, funguses, insects and weeds have always gone against domesticated agriculture. And so even at that time, they were developing pesticides out of plant products. Later, the Egyptians and the Chinese were doing the same thing. Even in the 1600s, they were using tobacco and herbs and other ways to try to kill insects and other types of pests. And I'll remind everyone that a plow is a pesticide. And a plow does much, much more damage from a natural resource standpoint than any of these chemicals have been proven to do. So here we are today in post-World War II, just through technological developments, and today everyone woke up and used or was exposed to some type of synthetic chemical, whether it's deodorant, makeup, toothpaste, I could go on, that was developed post-World War II in a new technology age. And the same thing happened with synthetic pesticides. We developed these products, and in 47, FIFRA was passed. And it's been amended several times to take into consideration what we've learned, new technologies, and that the farmers have one issue with FIFRA, is that it is too robust and that its risk assessments go too far. So when we're referencing FIFRA, in this bill, we're talking about a body of federal legislation that was put together in a nonpartisan fashion that has provided protection for farmers and for the people and the consumers. And now there's two other federal laws that protect consumers related to pesticides since 1947. And here we are today. The last thing I'll say is every one of you have an interest in this bill, and I'll tell you why. Because ultimately it's your constituents who are affected if we lose these products. There's only a precious few active ingredients that we're able to use in pesticides. And if we lose them, then we become just like any other developed nation out there, and we're not able to produce the food and fiber we need. And that is just a fact, right? Farmers do not have to get up and do this every day. And to think that we could import our food from other countries It's not something I don't think we need to look into, but we are what farmers call a chemistry cliff, where we're about to lose many of the products.
Mr. Robin, thank you so much for your comments. Don't see anybody else on the committee. Okay, Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to just thank the panel for being here, and I want to thank the people that were here before. I may disagree with them on this particular issue, but there's many others that we agree on. I've heard over and over again, there's not a farmer here that's representing, standing in the gap, making this case. Kevin, I'll ask you this question. You're here representing Tennessee Farm Bureau because the policy that Tennessee Farm Bureau stands for. Would you explain to this committee how Tennessee adopts their policy?
Tennessee
Mr.
Farm
Hensley?
Bureau, yeah, Tennessee Farm Bureau, we're a federation of the 95 county farm bureaus. In each and every county, we have a farmer board of directors that is the active, it's like your local chamber of commerce in each and every county, that they advocate for ag issues. They discuss issues at the local level. They bubble them up. We have 12 regional meetings each and every year across the state where we debate these topics, just like the debate we're having today. We go through them, and then we ultimately have a questionnaire that goes out to all of the 95 county farm bureaus that they review in October, and they again debate the issues that we're talking about at the county level, and then all the information from the regional meetings and the county meetings that is collected and compiled, and it goes to our resolutions committee, which meets in November. And each one of you your offices have our policy book. They read our policy book out loud and they debate about what's in that policy book. And those are the positions that we take. And then at our convention, the changes that the resolutions committee proposes are voted on by the county farm bureaus. At our convention, each county farm bureau can send 3 voting delegates. So every county that's here has farmers that represent them at our county farm bureau convention, and they debate that, and whatever they put in the book is what we discuss. And so we've talked about this issue for some time, and we see the media around that's really just kind of made this whole issue. This whole issue is so misunderstood by the media and in the public, and so we've been trying to figure out how we address this, and this is one way that we're seeking to address this.
Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Maupin, you represent the soybean. Will you explain how your board of directors have instructed you to be here?
Yes. The farmers in our leadership on the board, and then leadership outside of the board, have said this is definitely an issue that they support, and going to make probably a little bit of a bold statement here on behalf of the farmers, but they don't care whether the companies were involved or not. They want this. They know that this litigation strategy is number one, costing them money because they're having to pay for this. And then number two, that we run the risk of losing what precious few chemicals that we even have as far as active ingredients. And the last thing I'll say is nothing in row crop cash flowed last year. And nothing's going to cash flow this year. Ask any banker. No crop cash flows. And one of the main reasons is because the input prices are too high. And part of the reason for that is this type of litigation strategy that's cost literally billions, and somebody has to pay for it, and it's the customer, the farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Maupin, and we thank all of our guests for joining us today, each and every one of you for spending time to come down here. We appreciate hearing from you. Without objection, we'll go back into session. We're back in session, and we're back on House Bill 809. Representative Jones.
I was wondering if we can go out of session to hear from, I had a question for legal about this bill.
We certainly can do that. Without objection, we'll go out of session. We're out of session.
Thank you. To legal, because we've heard different opinions about the legality of this. Would this bill prevent lawsuits if people got sick from these pesticides? Would this bill prevent those type of lawsuits going forward?
Okay, we'll give you the opportunity there, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Garrett with the Office of Legal Services. Representative Jones, I can speak to what's contained in the bill just as a sort of a preliminary comment. I can't speculate as to intent. But in reading what's contained in the draft, and I'm going to restate this, obviously, but the manufacturer or seller is not liable in a civil action relating to labeling, including what's referenced there as product liability action, if the pesticide bore a label approved by the EPA under FIFRA at the time of sale. So, I can't speculate on intent. I can't say what the courts would determine on this. Beyond that, I can only say what is stated as to liability in the bill. And so if the pesticide bore a label approved by the EPA under FIFRA at the time of sale, then there is no liability in a civil action.
Thank you.
Representative Jones?
So that means that can you explain that in layman's terms? What does it mean that there's no liability? Does that mean that, can you explain what that means legally?
Sure, and I didn't expound on that, so that's my mistake. As to the labeling of the pesticide, including a product's liability action alleging failure to warn. So
that means
it preempts product liability action alleging a failure to warn if it has been approved by the EPA. Mm-hmm. And you heard discussions here earlier about maybe there being issues with what's approved by the EPA and FIFRA. But that again, that's an issue for the courts to flesh out.
Yeah.
We don't have those answers. I don't have that answer today.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you answering. So no liability means that there can be no lawsuits brought against them. They cannot be held accountable. If there's an EPA-approved label and people get sick, that means that there's no accountability mechanism through the courts, through civil action. Is that correct?
Mr. Garrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's related to the labeling of the pesticide, yes. If it's related to a product's liability action, including alleging failure to warn, that's correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Representative Fritz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my question for legal as well. I'm going to ask the question a little bit differently to legal, if I could. Is there anything that would preclude me, and I know hypotheticals aren't good, so I apologize before I ask this, but is there anything in this bill that would preclude me from bringing suit against a company A, if I allege that the methyl ethyl bad stuff had somehow made me sick and it had nothing to do with just the label?
Mr. Garrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you're speaking to a tort action based on negligence and duty to warn and based on that manufacturer's knowledge that it could cause damage. I think, and I don't want to speculate here, but I think that would occur under an ordinary or regular type of tort liability. So if I understood your question correctly, that may be something that would apply differently. Okay. In other words, there very well may be an action, but I don't want to speak with certainty to that.
Thank you.
Representative Fritz? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for legal? Okay, seeing none, we'll go back into session. We're back in session and back on the bill. Chairman Grills? Okay. Representative Jones, or Shaw? Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
No, I just called the question, but I'll back off.
We have a motion for question. We have a second? Okay. I don't think there's any more questions. No opposition. If you're ready to vote, please open the board. Please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you for that. And House Bill 809 moves on to full committee. Seeing we are out of time today, we'll pause for just a second. I'll turn the gavel back over to Chairman Grills.
We're still in session. We have 4 or 5 more minutes. We'll take up item number 8, House Bill 646. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. You're properly before the committee. Chairman Kenninger, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. This bill makes a simple addition to legal hunter safety colors in Tennessee. In addition to fluorescent orange, this bill will also allow for fluorescent pink, often referred to as blaze pink, to be worn in the same manner. Just like fluorescent orange, fluorescent pink is considered a safety color, with 12 other states already adopting this change. Beyond the safety aspect, this bill also intends to bring well-deserved recognition to the many female hunters and anglers across Tennessee. According to the Southeastern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agency, Tennessee has the highest population of sportswomen than any other state in the Southeast, clocking in at 25%, and we aim to get that higher by having fluorescent pink out there for our women, and you men can also wear it. So, Mr. Chairman and your committee, I hope you will join me in celebrating the many sportswomen in our state by voting yes on this bill, and I know Chairman Grills is raising 2 daughters to be involved in this also.
Chair Lady, I support you so much that I wore a pink tie in honor of this. And several others on the committee did as well. Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you so much for bringing this bill. And this bill is about inclusivity, about making it more inclusive for women hunting.
Yes, we want to make sure that women are getting out there and going for it also. So, and also, there's also color blindness there too, that adding another color in there besides fluorescent orange, the fluorescent pink can also be seen there.
You recognize.
I love it. Well, you know, I support inclusivity. This is the I in DEI, inclusivity. So I support this DEI bill. I thank you so much for bringing it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing this bill. Representative Fritz, you recognize.
Question on the bill.
Question's been called on the bill. All those in favor of sending House Bill 646 to full committee, vote aye when the board opens. All those opposed, vote no. Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes and 0 nays.
Congratulations, Chair
Thank you,
Lady.
Chairman and
on the full
committee.
committee with House Bill 646. Now we've got a couple of house cleaning issues we need to take care of. House Bill 1086 has been taken off notice without objection. Off notice. House Bill 834 has been taken off notice without objection. Off notice. Without objection, we'll roll all the bills that are left on the calendar to next committee next week. Without objection, we are adjourned. All right. Good job.
Question about the calendar. Do you want me to keep what's